saving the world as well.
Yeah, where's your superhero cape?
I wish I had one of those. That would be so cool.
Have you really not got one yet?
Oh, shut you.
She does have a magic wand, though. I'm sure she has.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's like behind a tequila bottle. Oh, dear, brilliant. Hey, Lisa. Hey, hi, Bex. Is she there? I'm seeing her designer seeming. Hey.
Something to eat, I'm sure.
Yes, probably. Cool. Good to see you, all of you folks. So today is how to rapidly still the mind. Was that what we decided? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good. The mind, it's like a monkey. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear from folks is that, you know, I want to sit down and release, but I keep finding reasons not to. And sometimes when we're faced with like, oh my God, I have to go and dig up all of this stuff and get going on it, it's kind of a little bit daunting. So we have resistance to it. Yeah. Has anyone ever known that they needed to kind of release and they resisted it, finding something else to do, something that was really busy stuff that needed doing? Yeah. Okay. Hey, Paul.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry.
Right. I'm just going to mute it because it's just pulling your thing. You can unmute yourself there in a minute. So that that's always something to be aware of. So if you're struggling with that, or if you're struggling like to kind of really focus your attention down and work through like this thought, then this thought, and this thought, because sometimes the thoughts move too quickly to be able to just put them down, right? Something that really helps is this technique that I'm going to show you today. And it's nothing new. You've been doing it all along. But it's just another way of framing it and another way of looking at it. So it's windows onto the same universe, right? So what we're doing is really just watching the mind. So you know the busyness that goes on, that you're like, I can't catch it. Just becoming aware of the I can't catch it, or whatever it is that's going on, or the visions. And so you're watching visions, not as like getting embroiled with like rewatching the TV show, like we talked about, Ruth, last time, but like with just becoming aware of what it was. So we want to take our awareness into that place, which is not embroiled in the world and the activity of the mind that's spinning, but we want to watch it like an outsider watching the thoughts effectively. Okay, is this making sense? Yeah. So rather than me just talking more about it, let's try it and then we'll see where we get to with that, yeah? Okay, so right now you've got thoughts going on because you're listening to what I'm saying and you probably have commentary on what I'm saying, right? So just notice the commentary and then notice the mind thinking about you noticing the commentary. And notice how the mind reaches for something else. And then it might reach for something else. And just watch. I'm going to be quiet for like 30 seconds or something. And just pay attention to what's going on. And just know that as soon as you start trying to give a commentary on what you're observing, you're back into being the mind. Right? So you don't want a voice that's saying, oh, now you're thinking about this, or now you're watching that, right? You want to just allow it to be still and just allow the movement. And you don't need to report on this. You don't need to say anything, right? Because sometimes when we know that we have to report on it, we're back in the mind and we're running that voice again, yeah? So we're just going to watch. Okay, so I'm going to shut up for like 30 seconds, okay? So we're just watching the mind and watching the thoughts, and that's it, okay? Go. And then I realised that I should have set a timer because I could sit and do that all day. So I'm guessing that was roughly 30 seconds. Okay, what did we notice? Anyone want to volunteer? Go on, Ray, you're unmuted.
Just how much I do kind of give a commentary of what I'm doing, especially when I'm trying to focus, because I was like, oh, actually I've got a bit of a headache. Oh, I can feel, and I was like, okay, no, just feel, and it was just like this commentary, and then it was like, oh, what am I going to say afterwards, even though we said you didn't need to. It's just like, and they get even more of into a tangle, really, kind of get the two mixed up.
Yeah. And then that's where you can relax and just go, oh, look at that tangle. And that's it. There's nothing else. That you don't need to unravel it, you don't need to understand it. It's just like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Really good. Well done, Ruth. Who's next? Bex, go for it.
Clapham Junction.
It's like Clapham Junction. So for those who aren't in England, Clapham Junction is like a really, really busy junction just on the outskirts of London. So it's like got all the traffic coming in, like, and yeah, train station, right? Yeah, coming in from everywhere. Okay, so good. And so when you recognised that it was, then what happened?
Well, actually, there's less judgment, right? So it's the attachment to the thoughts that's the bit that gets you unattached from being present, for me anyway, when I start judging my thoughts.
Yeah. And so in that instance, like the next step suggestion might be like become aware of the judgment. Yeah, so we're just watching the judgment. Oh, look, I said that to myself, except you're not being the commentary, right? But it's just like, hi, I'm saying that to myself. Now I'm doing that. Now I'm beating myself up. And without the view of changing it. So the sense that I got with Ruth just a second ago was that, did you get a feeling that you needed to change what was going on, that what was happening with the mind? Ruth?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay. So next time we do it, and going forward, let's just notice it rather than trying to change it, because the very fact of noticing it allows it just to open up and relax. And what we find is that we end up processing all of this churn through without having to do anything. We're just being aware of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And actually, then it's like you can watch it for a moment, and the temptation is to then take an action either on the judgment of the thought or the thought itself. So actually, if you're just observing the thoughts, it's like, well, what action do we need to take? No action? Do you see what I mean? Because the judgment and the thoughts themselves influence the action.
Absolutely. So this is the experiment. It's like, what if you did just watch it and take no action? It's bloody powerful, I can tell you that, right? So take it for checking, use it as an experiment. And like one of the exercises that I wanted to give you towards the end of this call will be around picking something that really pisses you off or disturbs you in some way, causes like emotional kind of like grr, and you're trying to decide what you need to do about it. And we're going to say, okay, for a week, no action, but you're just going to watch your thoughts on it, and that. Okay, cool. All right, Cynthia, what was your experience like?
I just, in that kind of a process, I just rest in the nature of mind. For me, there's a sky-like awareness, and thoughts are like a cloud, or they emerge and dissipate on their own. If you don't do anything with them, then you don't, create that chain of associative thinking. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Game on. Lisa.
Go into I've been doing this week too, and I've noticed the same thing. I go into constant analyzing about the past, about like how I could do something better, or how I could have made that happen, or tweak this or tweak that. And then I look into the future, or my mind goes to like, okay, well, if I have to do that, then I want to do this. And I go to like constructing things and analyzing things. And like, it's freaking tiring.
Cool. Great recognition. And I mean, in recognizing that, like being able to step back and keep noticing that, that's going to open it up so much, so that then you get to the point where Cynthia is describing the clouds and the thoughts, and you're at peace. You're not having to be embroiled in figuring out those thoughts.
Yeah, like I want to do this hour a day of my business, right? So I've got like a couple things I want to fit in, and then it's like, okay, and it goes great for a while, and I fit my hour in with pretty good ease and flow, and then I get into, okay, shoot, tomorrow I'm not going to get this hour in, oh my god, and then I go into this thing of how can I fit it in and contort and everything, and then I go, okay, that's like, do I really need it? And then I analyze if it's value. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay. When things are going good, this is a great exercise to do. When you're getting into that churn, this is a really great exercise to do. Like, just set a timer for 10 minutes and just sit and do nothing and just watch the thoughts, like with no action. This is like the no action way of having action, right? Okay. And just see. And there's nothing to do after that 10 minutes either. Just do the sitting, doing nothing, and watching the thoughts. Yeah? Okay. Will you remember to report back to us what happens next time we speak?
Yeah, but I still want to do I still want to do the hour, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
Just watch the thoughts, nothing else, right? If it happens that the hour materializes, great. If it doesn't, great. Your life is great no matter what.
True. Can I add something?
Please. But I was just going to finish off, like, the important part of this is the no action. And the sitting and just watching the thoughts. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I've found it useful with some of my clients to add in an instruction that you just need to allow yourself to be totally useless. You know, there's no place to get, there's nothing really to do.
Like every day.
Yeah, you just like the thoughts come up, let it go, and just for that 10 minutes. That's it.
I can do that for 10 minutes, but I have a real world here. I'm a human.
Yeah, right. But 10 minutes, I actually, just 1 minute of full presence is enough, you know, so.
Yeah. But I can commit to a 10-minute thing, like easily. I probably do it anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they'll default into planning, or they'll, you know, there's all this work, and they'll, they'll move into, oh, this is my planning session or something. It's just like, and then there's layers of that. I had one client that probably the hardest assignment I ever gave him was to be totally useless for a period of time, because he was so accomplishment and action oriented. It was painful, physically painful, but he got to see how hooked up he was with that. So at any rate, I offer that.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for that, Cynthia. That's great. The practice of doing this on a regular basis and noticing when you're fretting to be able to do this changes everything. So like Cynthia was saying about that guy being hooked in, when you're no longer hooked into the matrix, you see the matrix for what it is. And that's when the matrix automatically, it shifts around and it makes life easy and effortless. So here's another maxim to think about as the maxim that you use rather than the one about being productive. So often people will use, I need to either be productive or make progress, or I need to be achieving, or I need to have this happen, and I need to get through my to-do list, like whatever it is, right? That's normally how folks orientate themselves into their day and their life, right? We agree? Yeah. So what if the only reason, and this is where a lot of like spirituality kind of hooks in, like spiritual kind of thinking will come into play. And, you know, the alternative is, well, what if your purpose isn't to do this, but to achieve enlightenment? So what if all of these tasks that you're going through are all just like a playground or a way of you learning and grappling with this process of, this is reality, this is enlightenment, or this is beingness, and your job is to spend more time here than here. But in order to know that, you have to kind of grapple with this and then come away from it and then be in situations where you can observe this, right? So that then you can realize the difference. Yeah. So if your only task was enlightenment, or was to get to this presence or this beingness, then how important is it that you get that hour in? Yeah. Now you're getting it.
That I feel the only hook I have on there still
Yeah.
is, except I feel like my work, so-called my business, like I feel like when I get talking to people and I'm in that mode, I just feel lit up, right? And in fact, it's sort of fulfilling to my soul in a maybe weird way, but in a way I feel like I could just go on and on and on about it, right?
Right. That's great, like from a world perspective, but what if that's getting in the way of you seeing truth or being in your beingness? What if part of that or some of that is an addiction? What if, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying, like, what if it was? And if your path,
from a what perspective did you say? A wealth perspective?
A world perspective.
World perspective. So what do you mean by world perspective?
So like you go out into the real world and you talk to any normal kind of business person, human that likes this kind of thing, and they'll be like, oh, that's great, it lights you up, go for it, throw yourself into it. What I'm saying is that if your maxim is enlightenment, or to experience your true essence, then in some ways this hook is getting in the way. All right. So I'm not saying don't do what you're going to do in your business. I'm not saying don't get excited about what lights you up. What I'm saying is take time out of your life to realize what your life is, and to realize the very nature of everything that's going on, including this piece that you're passionate about. And so be able to step back into your true self and observe it, and just observe the passion.
Right.
Because everything has two sides. At the moment, you're hooked in because you're feeling pressure for having to do something about it, but you're also feeling the positive from the kind of hits, the emotional high that it gives you. And you have all these great chemicals running around in your brain, which are good for your health and da 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 da. So you're kind of embroiled in the fabric of that reality. But what I'm saying is just take time to notice that this is a fabric of reality. And in doing so, you will notice that the world will shift in your favor and things will be great. But more importantly than that, you will understand the true nature of reality.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Like with decluttering, for example, it's like, it's good in a sense, but when it consumes you and takes over and you become addicted to every nook and cranny and every paper that you can't even rest, then the stuff takes you over, instead of you just being like, oh, that's there, that's not there, right?
Exactly. And I've got news as well, folks. Everything in this world has those two sides.
Yeah, that's just more and more I'm seeing that.
Right? And so it should be more motivation to just come away from the world. Not withdraw, but like just become aware of what it is, so that you can see the two sides, and then there is no judgment on either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is just about coming back to what is and the truth of this reality. So Bex, you keep waving. Go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. When you say two sides, sorry, can you just repeat that? And also, when you say true essence, why do you think that's important to spend more time understanding that?
Okay.
And then I have a third thing.
One day you're going to die.
Yeah.
We agree on that. Right? How much time do we spend thinking about that?
Not a lot.
No. We try and push it aside, or we're obsessed with it, one or the other, right? We tend to oscillate at one of these two extremes. So like if someone close to us dies, we become aware of our own mortality, and then as quickly as we can, we sweep it on the rug and push it aside, okay? But death is natural, and it's something that we're going to have to come to terms with. And it's in that moment, like crossing over between where we realize that we're no longer going to have a body, that we realize there has to be something else. And by becoming less addicted to the physical world and the physical body and those routine sensations that you're accustomed to at the moment, there is a chance of becoming more aware of the nature of what you really are, because you are not this body that is going to die, and you are not this mind that runs you on a merry dance. You are something way more. And in being able to get to that state of experiencing it and that state of peace, it not only prepares you for the moment when you have to let go of your body, but it helps you to live more fully, where you're not racked with addiction, you know, whether it's emotional or whatever it is.
Is that the dichotomy you were just explaining?
Huh? Sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, is that the dichotomy you and Lisa were just saying? You know, because I wrote something down and my mind just... Slightly different.
So everything in this world that you're interacting with, so I've got myself a cup of tea here. So I enjoy this cup of tea, but if I have lots of it, then it's going to have a knock-on effect. Maybe it's the caffeine, or maybe it's the tannin, or da-da-da-da-da. Everything has like a plus and minus, or a push and a pull, or an attraction and a result. Even something that's really amazing, you know, like a relationship, when it ends, and all things end, all things change, when that ends, that causes you pain. And we get obsessed in our lives with going after pleasure and avoiding pain. And on a very base level, that's useful and important, and it's what keeps us able to sustain our paradigms and the way that we operate in the world. It allows us to sustain the physical human body, you know, at a very base kind of low-level brain kind of way. But when it comes to understanding that none of this is real, and that all of this is a construction that we project into the space and the material around us, all of that just gets in the way, because it's just so distracting that we can't appreciate that, you know, we start to believe that things are as they seem to be, and we believe that our projections about people and the world and about the nature of things are real. And we get glimpses of them not being real when we release enough out of that state to go, shit, maybe I just made all this up. Maybe this was just a dream that I'm lucidly kind of stepping through and calling it my life. Did that answer all of your questions, or was there something that I missed?
Can I follow up with one more thought? Is that all right?
Sure, of course. Yeah, go for it.
So therefore, the experience that you have is more based in reality, and so therefore, I want to, you know, that reality is a different experience, and therefore, you know, what's the purpose of having that more real, you know, like just being? For example, I've noticed lately I've, you know, dropped a lot of the habits I used to have. For example, attaching a lot of value to knowing, to reading lots of knowledge. You know, I've spent the last 6 months just being, it's felt like, and I've ditched for the first time ever just enjoying being rather than having to do stuff. And that's meant for me that I've not read anywhere near as much as I have, but I just felt like that's okay for a while. Do you know what I mean? If I was having this conversation with Lisa the other week, it's like, it's just allowing myself to come back to a state of just being very present, and then taking action from choice, like you've said, rather than I have to do this in order to be X, Y, or Z.
Great. You're breaking this hook that we have in the world.
Yeah, and so the purpose of being more real, I guess, is what you're saying, and more based in reality and not attached to the, watching the mind and the, I grapple sometimes with what's the point to that, because, but then is that about having a better experience or a more, I don't have the words to describe the purpose behind doing that whilst we're still here, or, not chasing pleasure, but being real with what we're experiencing.
Yeah. I think the obvious thing is like try it and then tell me that you don't prefer it. So that's the obvious answer. But I think like understanding the nature of what you really are helps you live more fully, and it helps you confront this ultimate fear of what happens next, which in turn also allows you to live more fully. But just try it. I mean, you're nodding because you've experienced it. You've had glimpses, yeah.
I like the kind of the question that you raised, and I'd love to explore more the whole experience of making a choice. So dependent on, if you really are free, how do you make a choice? Because usually choices are based on going after more, better, different, or avoiding pain, so you're stuck in that whole reactive type of thing. So I would love to explore more just these, if we take the phenomenon of making a choice or creating action in the world, how that shifts depending on the degree of attachment or aversion.
Right.
So it's kind of like taking what you said, Bex, and it's to me that's a fascinating type of thing. And then how do we catch ourselves, when we make choices too? It's really tricky. Yeah, slippery.
Brilliant. Okay. So I'm going to change the paradigm. So this may or may not feel like a satisfying answer, but we can always circle back and try again. Okay. So the reason that it's not satisfying is because I'm about to say that the question itself comes from projecting forward in time and projecting backward in time. Okay. Which I would argue isn't a useful state to be in. So that question doesn't exist as soon as you come into the present moment and you go like, this is presence. Okay.
Yeah, if you're totally a non-dual, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. But you're saying, okay, you're going to go with your mind as it is at the moment out into the physical world. So what is something that you can do to help you square that away and come back to that presence? Is that right?
No, it's more like, how do I want to say this? One of the things I've observed over the years is I used to be so totally fascinated with time management and decisions and, creating action in the world type thing. And then, then learning techniques, like we did a year ago and even, but over time, just the power of visualization. And where that, you're experiencing that result in the present moment. And then something activates and it's activated in the quantum physical world, let's say. But still that, we have all those concepts around that and an explanation. And so if like in those moments where you're just resting in the pure nature of being, and there's no leaning into the past or leaning into the future, and there's just the occurrence of now, which is really all we have to work with. It's like, well, that's interesting. It's like, well, okay, is there conscious intention? Because that is in the domain of thinking. Is there, it's so interesting to me that whole nature of how the world occurs and what happens in our successive moments of now. all these constructs that we have about planning a business and making things happen just completely disintegrate. And yet we're in that world. And, we need to pay the bills and do, that kind of thing too. So it's just a very, it's like, it's not an either or, it's an and, but at the same time, I think there's, oh gosh, kind of stumbling your way to enlightenment or something like that in a postmodern world.
Yeah, no.
It's like, yeah.
For sure. Okay, let me put in some words.
I'm just exploring. I haven't really tried to articulate anything like this before. So
yeah. So maybe this will be useful when you're contemplating it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have observed is that the more a person can sit in presence at choice and still the mind, and not be caught up in past or future projections, visualization, whatever, the more we can let go of everything and just be present, the more powerful we are when we come to do something with intentionality behind it. So all the creating a business and everything becomes boom. And the tools for that, we've talked about the tools for that and the methods of visualization and so on, and all that's great. But there comes a point at a certain level of understanding this fabric that I keep talking about, where there isn't this is better than that, right? And also once you're out of the hook of survival, like I need to make money in order to survive, but once you're out of that grasp of that, and that takes some doing, right? But even you get a taste of it, even when you've got like a small amount of it kind of hanging on, right? And there's this idea that whether I go out and I do this and I bring home the bacon or not, this is still perfect and I'm still in bliss. And if this happens, which previously I would have thought was bad, let's say some of your income drops away or you lose a client, for instance, we'd normally judge that instantly as like, this is bad. But what if on some level it's good? And what if it leads you to an experience and a realization that, opens you up to understand more of what it is to be? And what if it triggers you enough so that you can let go of more of this stuff so that you can be even more deeply in the moment? And so it kind of becomes a case of, you could do an experiment, and I would advocate this, like, even if you don't do it for a year, like do it for a month or something, or even a week if that's all you're comfortable with, and just say, I'm going to do nothing, I'm going to act on nothing, right? And I'm just going to be. Now, some of that you'll feel compelled to go shower and eat and maybe you'll answer some emails, maybe you'll show up because you've agreed to show up. But you can do it with firstly, you can do it. So you can allow yourself to just do the easy minimum stuff. But secondly, you can do it without action. So this is where you're the observer rather than the action taker, which we talked about a bit. And I think just that in itself will give you the understanding of stuff. Like some of Becky's questions were around this. It's like, well, what's the point in doing this? And I think just that experience gives us enough fodder to understand what we're doing. Yeah. And I'm sure that doesn't answer the underlying question that was going on in amongst that, but it's just, part of that conversation, right?
Yeah, it's kind of old karma just running off, because there's things that were set in motion before you were born. There's things that you set in motion. There's, the context in which you make a living. All of those things are spinning along. So you can certainly dance with all that with an inner freedom.
Right.
Yeah, and Yeah, but at what point? It's so to me, it's just so interesting about the notion of interference or directing or shifting an outcome, and can you really shift it, or are you showing up and dancing with it, you know? And it's just this trajectory that, you know, but in every moment, you know, our thoughts influence the outcomes.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, any rate, I'll stop rambling, but
Right.
I'm just fascinated with all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, like, at what point, like, if I stopped my thoughts, what would carry on? What happens then? And I think that's a worthwhile experiment to do as well.
Yeah, it's like your little leaf on the stream that's carrying you forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there's another good thing, and that's kind of bringing us full circle back to where I wanted to get to earlier with the exercise that we want to go to. I think Becky said there's something that particularly bugs you, right? I think a really useful thing to do is to take something that really, really, really annoys you, and just recognize that there are some things that, like, I hesitate to say that you can't change, but I have come to the conclusion that it's not worth the input of your energy to change, right? And in that, you get to a certain point of surrender. And in that surrender, you realize the nature of what really is. And I think that's a really valuable point to get to. So if you can, like, take that thing that really bugs you, and rather than trying to change it or to figure it out or to do it, just recognize, like, where your mind or your ego is kind of trying to attack it to make it more of what you want and less what you don't want, or to protect you from your own feelings and whatever else is going on. And see if you can make absolute peace with that thing that you don't like. Yeah. So Becky, whatever it is that's kind of that you're alluding to, like when something bugs you, like there are probably a couple of things that are going on there that bug you. Take one of them and say, okay, for the next month or 6 months, I am going to accept that thing exactly as it is. And then you can catch yourself. So where you say something just to provoke a reaction or try to get the response that you want, you catch yourself and you notice yourself doing it. Every time you start thinking about that thing, or you start running a scenario in your head of something, how would that go? Or if he said that, what would I do? And da-da-da-da. And use that as a tool, and use that situation as this amazing kind of like training ground for getting to that point of absolute, complete and total acceptance. And so you can accept every single thing and every part of your own process that you're projecting into that thing 110%, and then see what happens.
Usually for me it's a lack of response from somebody and me thinking I've said or done the wrong thing.
I love it. It's a beautiful example.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah, and look at all of those feelings, that every nuance of those feelings that go on, like when you send a message and you're looking for a response and you're waiting, and then you notice the time that in the headspace that you're taking up waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you start churning in your mind to say, well, what should I be saying? What should my next interaction be? And here's why I'm angry at this lack of response. Boom, 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 boom. Right? All of that, all of it, every slither of a second of it, you can just watch. And the more you spend your time watching it rather than doing it and being embroiled in it, the more exquisite this breaking through is going to be.
Yeah, I feel that.
I love it. I hope that everyone's got something like this to work on.
Yeah, what comes to my mind is Trump. I just, no, I'm serious. I just, you know,
I get it.
I asked people, I said, please, let's not even waste time. But still, you know, I don't engage in conversations about politics anymore. But definitely every time one of these, to be neutral, statements comes up in the press or whatever, I have a very predictable reaction now. And And so disengaging from that and taking right action, you know, rather than adding fuel to the fire, it's just, I don't know, it's so unhealthy for me and everybody else right now.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good because it's tangible, it's external.
It's very tangible, it's automatic now, and there's a lot of social agreement around it too. So it's a way to bond with total strangers. And I need to stop it. I really need to stop it. It's a bad, nasty habit. So anyway.
Okay, and there are judgments on the thing as well, right? And the judgments on our reactions. So yeah. I think that's a beautiful one to work on.
Yeah.
Because I think it will give you so much back to your life as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay, mine's Trump.
Anyone else? I mean, you could totally keep it private if you want to, but if you want to share, it's so cool. Go on, Lisa's being brave. No?
Well, no, I already typed it in there. I was just like, things that drive me nuts.
Taxes, insurance, want to be further along with your business. I would do the business one first.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the one that you have a lot of action around.
Yeah.
You're actively involved in it. So like if you were to get peace on just that one little bit, I think it would be really helpful to a lot of areas of your life. Cool. Ruth, I saw you hand waving before Lisa opened her
Yeah,
mic.
I'm at the danger of saying that everything I seem to be thinking of, I'm like, oh yeah, but but that's okay. That will get better. You know, I can. I know exactly. Which is really, I mean, it's like the tax return is done. So that up to now, that would have been the, you know, I've basically taken a month to not doing anything but doing my tax return or ignoring my tax return.
Yeah.
Maybe something around finances, I guess. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit to find a definite thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, the very fact that your tax return's done and you're still thinking about it suggests that some part of you is carrying with you. Yeah, and the tax. I don't want to reel off how many businesses I'm involved in, but like this keeps coming around again and again and again. It's like I'm constantly doing tax returns in 2 different countries, so I get it.
Of course, yeah.
Never do tax returns, so make peace with it because it's going to keep coming around.
Yeah. And it's been interesting what lessons I've learned this time. So yeah, it's been interesting which lessons I've learned this time around shame and think like of not getting it done and not talking. You did me all doing it, but shame and all sorts of interesting things have come up from it this time as well. So
beautiful. That's cool. I think like just so I'm seeing a vision of you being able to transform that shame into bliss. Like just transmuting it, you know how we're talking about transmuting feelings and stuff. And it's not for the sake of like getting rid of one and getting the other, but for the experience of knowing that you can do that. I think that's just cool because that like leads you deeper into that experience of acceptance. So you could do it on anything, right? But if this has got emotions around it, I think it's a really wonderful kind of ecosystem for you to just be in.
Yeah, got it. And actually I've just thought of another one. So yeah, okay, now I've got it. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Paul, maybe taxes in general. So Paul's like a tax wizard. I don't know whether you guys know, but he's embroiled in this. We need to stop talking about taxes. So are you going to do taxes, Paul? Oh, no. He says his blood's starting to boil. Okay, we'll stop talking about taxes. And we're going to just be with our boiling blood. Here's the beauty of this. It's that wherever you are, you have an entry point. It's like a portal into acceptance, which is in turn a portal into beingness and bliss. So even if you're agitated, and this is why I wanted to call this one like your rapid kind of shortcut to stilling the mind. It's like, even if you're in a state of being like churning your thoughts, you can use that. You can just look at the thoughts and be present with the thoughts and accept your non-acceptance of whatever it is that's going on. You can accept your busy mind. You can accept your blood boiling. You can accept the tension that's in your gut when you're looking at social media. And you can just be with it. And then in being with it, you're noticing it. And then you notice it some more. And you observe it some more. And you watch it some more. And maybe it increases. Maybe it decreases. Maybe it gets bigger. Maybe it shifts. And it doesn't matter what it does. It can go up, down, or sideways. It's like trading options. It doesn't matter which way it goes because you win either way, right? So you just sit and you watch it, and you watch and you watch and you stay present. You watch it some more. And then you will drift. Watch yourself drift. And in becoming aware of your drifting, you can pull yourself back. And there's nothing to chastise yourself about ever. Even if you're running in monkey circles and you're getting in monkey tangles, you become aware of that and you go, look what I was doing. And look, I came back to myself when I noticed it. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to do that. And it doesn't matter how many times you do that, because every time you're doing it, you're getting experience in this playground.
And you're sure focusing on the tension is not going to bring more tension?
Aha, great question. Okay, so when you're focusing on it and you're actively embroiled in it, you sure are pushing. I don't know whether it might have been about a year ago when I described it as this, but our focus has two aspects to it. We have the one that uses what we use in order to navigate the world and to shift the world, right? Which is the one that we're talking about. And we have the observer. So it's like we have two eyes that go out on the world and everything, right? And what we're trying to say is like, close this one and open this one. And in this one, you're just watching what happened. You're not adding to it. Do it now. Look at where your tension is in your body. Okay, now if I say focus on it and try and relax it or try and move it, notice what that feels like. All right. And now just observe whatever's going on and just experience the tension as it sits. And then experience it some more. And experience it some more. See, and actually I'm cheating a little bit here because I know that Lisa has specific words that are wired to these two different mechanisms. So this eye that watches and observes will use experience for Lisa. Okay, but do you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else notice that they have those two mechanisms going on?
So I keep on going back to the image of the like the sound wave.
Uh-huh.
So okay, that I've jumped ahead, but a little bit like a bird's eye view or something. You're still seeing something, but you're stepping back from everything, and that feels more. It brings it all into focus, but not. It's not the same as being right close to something and not being able to imagine there's anything else but it. So that's that make much sense, but that's how I see it, I think.
Okay,
and
cool.
Then also the sound wave as well. That kind of, if tension was this like peak on the sound wave, which I think is what you've said before, and you kind of go in and in. You wouldn't see it as a peak anymore. You'd see it as a flat, as a line, and that's what keeps on coming back to me again and again.
Got it. Like the sampling rate. So you narrow the sampling rate on a sound wave, and so even with pain, you end up kind of just experiencing the moment, and that's where the transmutation happens.
Yeah, and you come to that point, and that point doesn't really have charge, or it has both charges. but it doesn't, it's kind of negative charge and it's positive charge, because it has to be both, because it's a point in time and a point in end. Yeah, anyway, that line. Sorry.
I love it. I really love it. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
I don't know if it makes sense, but yeah, that's
it does. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, everyone's understanding exactly what you mean.
Cool.
Go ahead, Bex.
That I come back to, that I struggle with sometimes, and I don't quite know how to stop this happening before it happens, if that makes sense. I sometimes will be very present, and there's a point at which I could be working or doing something where I have continued beyond what I probably should have done. It's almost like maybe it's an addiction to getting stuff done. And I don't do it as much, but I sometimes, when I've got into something, I'll take myself out of being in the moment, and then I get into this really weird mindset where I feel like I've floated off somewhere into another planet, not present. And I really find it very hard then to bring myself back into the present moment without doing some kind of exercise or doing something that's going to ground me.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And sometimes it's going for a walk, or like, and I don't always like the way that feels. I'm not conscious always of the point at which that happens.
Yeah, I understand, and like I think most of the population would say, yeah, get out into nature, and I think that's great. Okay, so if that works, fine. But in terms of like being aware of your state, like as soon as you're aware of it, it's no different from being embroiled in the monkey mind or within like an emotional thing that's kind of triggering a response, right? It's all the same thing. It just happens to be you feel a different way. So if you just treat it in exactly the same way and just observe, and observe what you're feeling about it and what you think about it, and like if there's a commentary going on or you're trying to put pictures to it, just observe that and observe the sensations that it's creating. And like when I say a sensation, like normally we talk about these sensations as like physical heaviness in the body, but if you're feeling also spacey, like that's a sensation in itself, right? So you're applying the exact same tool and set of muscles to this other state that normally you'd go, oh, this is me drifting off in some spiritual realm, which is sometimes what the tendency is to kind of like conclude from this, right? It's Lisa waving because you got to go. Okay, see, and so what you're really doing is you're bringing yourself back to what is and what's real and what your beingness, because I can guarantee you beingness isn't spacey and presence isn't spacey. Yeah,
I get the difference. It's just when it happens I find it really hard then to engage with people because I don't hear them.
Yeah
I don't like the way that feels, so I don't know how to get back to being present when that happens sometimes.
Yeah, well it's in that moment that you recognize that you've gone spacey and you just watch it. And you watch it, and you don't like necessarily force yourself off in the way that I was saying when you're still in mind, when you're doing the acceptance thing. Like you don't beat yourself up because you're not where you want to be. You start exactly where you are, and you accept that situation or that feeling that you're having, and you accept it and you accept it and you watch it and you watch it and you accept it and you watch it and watch it, and it can't not change. Everything changes. Everything always changes.
Thanks.
That's the only thing I can guarantee you. Cool. Okay, so our home play for this week is to pick that thing that bugs you and use it as a way of getting to absolute deep and fundamental acceptance. Does it ever work to do the opposite, like try to think infinite thoughts? Tell me some more about that quickly, Paul. You gotta go. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Well, I was thinking, like when you try to stop your thoughts, you're flooded with thoughts. And I just wondered if you did the opposite, would you go blank?
You can try it. You can try it for sure. I don't know what the answer to that is. But you're right. In trying to stop something, we create a resistance, and that's the old thing.
You know what I mean.
So that's why we try not to. We accept where we are. So we accept that we have these thoughts, and we experience them as they are, and we don't try and move them and change them.
Right. You know how you like you tell us to try to feel it more, and in trying to feel it more, it goes away.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, so you're saying, can you do that with the mind? Like,
yeah. Can you just do that with the mind?
I don't know. Do you want to try it? Try it and let us know.
I just tried it for a few seconds, and I couldn't think of anything because I was like, "What should I think about?"
Oh, that's cool. I can believe it.
In a way, it is not resisting. It's like, okay, you know, okay, I'm gonna let the thoughts come. You know, I'm not gonna push them back, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I remember someone telling me about them trying to do this with fainting. Like they were scared of fainting all the time, and then someone told them to try and faint, and they tried and they tried and they tried, and they couldn't faint. And from that point on, they were cured because they just like stopped running from it and stopped resisting it. And
yeah. Oh, I gotta remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they started to feel woozy and they were like, oh, I'm going to faint. And they go, try and faint some more, try and faint. And they couldn't.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. But if you think about it, I think it's the blood constriction that causes the fainting, and then you hit a tripwire, right? So if you try and constrict the flow, I imagine the instant response is for it to kind of relax. I don't know. I'm hypothesizing at this point. Cool. All right. So, slight tangent. So anyway, great call, guys. Well done. Really, really good stuff. Deep stuff. We're going deeper. Let's stay hooked in on the Facebook page and let us know what your experiences of this are. And can someone remind me to circle back to find out how your really bad situations went? Yeah? Yeah, cool. All right, super. All right, folks, have a great couple of weeks, and I'll see you very soon. All right, take care. Thanks a lot. Sorry, the timing.
Perfect timing, this topic, yeah.
Oh, good. Excellent. I love it. Well done. All right, take care. Bye.